I want to just let you know, again, you can ask questions in the Q&A and chat with each other. But I want to start by just introducing myself, because some people might not know me, and I heard last time that it's rude to not, no, I'm kidding, no one said that, but to not introduce myself. So I'm Natalie Callback. I'm the host of Spill Your Heart, and I'm a mixed media artist in Jersey City, New Jersey. For those of you who do not know me, check out my website and my Instagram page. Here's some of my work. So that's what I usually do. If I don't do art journaling, I paint a lot of canvases and in old ledgers, usually paintings of the area where I live, some urban paintings. You can also join my Facebook group, where you can hear about new webinars or workshops. For example, Creative Jumpstart is a workshop that I host for 11 years. And all of our wonderful, wonderful artists that are on this panel have been part of Creative Jumpstart. And I'm super stoked, and I love working with those guys. And I hope they come back. So, no pressure, babies. So I'm super, super excited for our guests in this panel, but I want to point out some things that are coming up in the studio here. One is, I love my birthday this year. So I have a birthday coming up, and it's the day after America's birthday. And so save the date. I'm going to have a birthday bonanza sale from July 2nd to July 5th. And then also I want to point out that my dear friend Sarah Matthews and I have our 5th Art Collab Zoomcast on Tuesday, July 6th, also at noon. And we're talking about the art of self-care, which is really, 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 really important, I think. And so I cannot wait to see my friend Sarah again, which we, by the way, met through Rachel, who's here. So we are very, very thankful for Rachel bringing us together through her Pass the Brush. So I want to talk about Spill Your Heart. We have studio organization, and I want to tell you just a little bit why this topic, besides that you guys are emailing oftentimes, like, how do you organize things? So every couple of years, I tend to reorganize my studio. Mostly it's the flow of my studio by rearranging the furniture. And I have had that since I was a child. I used to actually rearrange the furniture in my teenager room as well all the time and make my parents crazy. So this usually happens alongside a shift in my priorities with my art. And as some of you might know, my work and income streams are pretty diverse. So are the income streams and works of our panelists today. So from teaching workshops on and offline to consulting, painting and licensing my creative designs, there's a wide range of what the studio must function and like how it must function. And so I wanted to know if that's the same way for our panelists as well, you know, like how does that influence your workflow and the way how you organize your studio. So I invited my friends, Tanya Ahmed, Rae Missigman, and Rachel Bellamy, so that we have a nice, fun discussion about studio functionality and organization, and you can ask us questions as well. So let me start with the gorgeous Rachel. Hi, Rachel. So Rachel, she's in Virginia, and she's the mixed media artist behind Soul Rain Art. You can see her Instagram handle in her picture as well. And also Kim is going to post some of her social media and website. It is Rachel's purpose and passion to help others in their journey of emotional, spiritual, and cultural healing through the transformative power of art. Rachel creates art courses, experiences, and excursions to facilitate healing. Every piece of art she creates, she signs with her heart's prayer, may your soul reign. Here, we're going to show you a little bit later her studio as well. Hey, Rachel, good to have you.
Hey, hello, everyone. I like the picture. She's cute.
The Rachel is pretty cute, right?
At least in the picture.
No, you're always cute. So funny. And here's Rae Missigman. She's also with us. She's a mixed media artist living in Florida. She's an author and instructor known for her vivid colors, intricate layering, and signature repetitive art marks. Sorry, my German comes through here. And Rae offered Paint, Play, Explore, an amazing book, Expressive Mark Making Techniques in Mixed Media, which details her journey into art marks. Hey, Rae.
Hi.
So good to see you.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here.
And then we have, last but not least, my friend Tanya Ahmed from the UK. She's a freelance craft content creator, video maker, and demonstrator. She is originally from Pakistan and draws her inspiration from diverse cultures, bright colors, bold graphic designs, and eclectic patterns. She's very passionate about teaching and sharing her love of craft and creativity. And she also has a wonderful podcast called Craftermath, which I really urge you to check out. And I think Kim is gonna post a link to that as well. So welcome, welcome, ladies.
Thank you, Nat. I'm gonna start crying now.
Oh, don't cry. So I thought we're gonna start off with showing some photos of our studios so that people first get a little bit of an idea how the studios look like. And then we go to some questions that I already got via email and also answer your questions. So I'm gonna shamelessly start with my own. Terrible, right? So this is where I'm sitting right now. This is my studio. As you can see, it has a dual functionality, and it looks like it has to, because this is when you come into our house, this is what you see. So that means that I have to be a little bit more organized, and I have to make some decisions about, you know, how does it look like when we have visitors if it's not pandemic times, but also that it's still functional for me, that I can work in there. So I have this little seating area in the front, and then you see on the right side, across from the non-functioning fireplace, I have a wall easel. That's where I do big paintings, or I can actually also do 2 medium-sized paintings at the same time. And then in the background, you see that's where my filming happens. I work on my art journal. You see a little open door in the background. That's the laundry room. And this is what you see when you're at the, you know, looking in the other way. You also see a little kitty cat there. I have a big letterpress that I brought over from Germany. It stores my stencil stamps. Are some of the drawers that I have for the letterpress that are filled with paint media, stencils, and foam stamps. And then I want to show you next. This is Rachel's studio.
Woo! So okay, let me tell you about this. I gave you both pictures because I wanted you to see clean and normal, right? So normal is on the right and clean was definitely on the left. So I am fortunate. I have a studio that's away from my home. That's not where I started. This has been a long time coming. I used to have a studio in my attic in my house, and I had young kids, and I never got to go up into the attic because it was away from everybody. So I ended up buying a bunch of Rascogs and kind of taking over the dining room, and then that wasn't really functional. And then as I started painting bigger, I just wanted a bigger space. I no longer couldn't paint easels in the attic or in the dining room. And so I was fortunate to get a space in the office the building that I work in. So I have I don't know how many square feet, but it's a pretty large space. I'm very fortunate to have it. So I set up similar to Nat, I set up my space so that it's very functional in how I work. Not clean, but functional. And so I have what you see in this picture here is where I do all of my paper art, if you will. So I do my jelly printing, my art journaling, and I store a lot of my supplies. But the primary purpose of this is where I do most of my filming, which is because I, through the years, have found out if I have to set up my filming, then I'm not going to film. And so I'm always set up so that if I, at any minute's notice, I can just sit down and turn the computer on or turn the cameras on and record. And so that was primarily the function of this room, was to have a space that always was set up to record. You can turn. I know everybody, oh, wait. Everybody loves my, my shelves that I store all of my inks and sprays on it. And so, I mean, the little backstory, and I won't take too long. I used to be a scrapbooker. And so when I was a scrapbooker, I really wanted a cute and pretty room. You know, it had to look like Pinterest room. But as I got a little more serious, I threw it all out. It was more important to be functional and to have stuff that I could see it and use it, because cute meant I wasn't using it. So being able to see it helps a lot. I just, you know, I can turn around and get something and use it.
This is so cool.
Okay, so the acquiring the studio primarily was so that I could paint larger paintings. And so I have a separate room, they're connected, you can walk from one to the other, and where I do my wall art. And if you've known anything about my process, you know I never paint one painting or anything at one at a time. And so this allows me to paint in a series, and I'll cover the walls with canvases. And my new love is I have two 16 by 20 jelly plates. And so I've even put them together and then taken a large a canvas and smushed the canvas onto the two jelly plates. So just to cover the whole surface. So that's my newfound thing that I'm doing in the studio in the next space. I know a lot of people, I get lots of comments about my wall, my pegboard wall. It's from IKEA. I just bought a bunch of the panels, and I put, you can't see it here, but I have my paints hung up on it. I have my paint brushes hung up on it. And then like half of it is supplies and half of it is canvases. But when reality happens, the whole floor ends up being covered with canvases and large 16 by 20 and 18 by 24 papers. And I literally, I think I have a couple pictures on my Instagram. I get kind of trapped in these corners, and there's just papers and art and canvases everywhere. So I swear, I kind of go, what did I do when I was just at my dining room table? I don't know. I don't think you ever have a big enough space. So, but that's my art thing. I think I have one more picture. Okay. So the one on the left is hilarious because can't even see the table anymore. But when I was organizing my table, this was it was so hopeful how I had it so nice and neat and clean and organized. Yeah, it doesn't look like that at all. But underneath that's what the intent was. And then on the right, I try to keep my paints. This is morphed too, right? So again, I think if you could take it away from me, it would be, you know, have a plan, but don't hold the plan loosely, because at the end of the day, it may not work. So when I started off, I wanted all the paints up like that because it looks cute. But in reality, I paint in color blocks, right? So if I'm on a green kick, I actually take all the green paints that I have from all around the studio and I put them in these bins, and I pull from there. So I just totally don't use that cute picture, but it's cute. Just so you know, it is cute. It is cute.
Rae, let me show some pictures of Rae's super
Amazing
famous studio.
Oh, her space is just gold. Oh my goodness.
That, like Rachel, was a long time coming. I started doing art when I had 5 little kids around my feet, and it was literally, when I say in a corner, it was a table my husband made me to fit into a corner. So it was like a piece of pizza. I didn't even have the whole table. But, you know, I had baskets tucked under, and I didn't care because it was my spot to work in. And then, you know, as our family grew and our spaces grew. I stole a bedroom, and then, our kids started to grow and move out, and we downsized and went to a smaller space, and I just took half the house for myself. I said, nobody's here, so I'm just taking it. So it's actually like Nat, when you come in the front door, this is what you see. It's meant to be your living room and dining room. And so it was really tricky for me to be able to create a space where I could do art. There was no wall between it and the space that had to function as a dining room table. If it's just my husband and I, we can eat at the island in the kitchen, but if the kids are here, we had to have a place. So I really struggled with it not looking like a dining room, but at the end of the day, I talked myself into it because it's functional. My husband made that big table for me in the middle, and I can clear it off, and it can be a buffet when, all 20 of us are together, and, we can add more chairs around the table. So it's really worked out well. The kids zoom in and out of it in their walker and their little tricycles and everything else. So it's worked out to be a great space. I only sent clean pictures. I did not send the rest ones. I didn't know that was an option. Because it would
wait.
10 days cleaning it.
Your place ever looks messy? I don't believe that.
It is a true fact. It really is. I mean, there's something set up all the time. I'm bad about piles. I want to work on things. So everything is like organized into folders and clipboards and everything. But then as the project grows, that pile, the clipboard on top looks great, but underneath it, there's baskets and piles everywhere. It gets bad, Nat. It really does. And I think, like Rachel said, the more space you have, the more you just spread out, you do. I have to have the tools where I can see them to use them. So I use a lot of, and again, this room was meant to be, there's a teeny, tiny, like maybe 18 inches across closet. So every single thing I have has to be seen. There's no hiding it. And my husband built this beautiful, huge table, but he's like, I can't do drawers. I can't do cupboards. He's not a carpenter. So literally everything shows. And, that's rough, keeping it neat like that. So having containers to wrangle it all makes it a little bit easier, throw it in a cup or throw it in a basket. Or I have these, you can see like on the table, he was able to build shelves. At least there was these like crates. They're like divided, like maybe milk bottles or something came in them, and they were great because they were divided. So all the paint can stand up, and I can take the whole crate out if I need to. Except they weigh 50 pounds. So I usually
I have some of those too, where I store my paints on a little dolly.
Yeah.
They're industrial.
Yeah.
They're so heavy. Unbelievable.
They are. But what happened is when I had the space at my old house, it was all contained in cupboards, and it was easy to keep it neat because you could just shove it in and close the door. Here, I make huge messes in it. There's places to put it in, but at the end of the day, you're seeing everything. So, but I use my tools. I use my space a lot more in this format because I know what I have.
I'm gonna show now, I think this is Tanya's. Let me change that. Hi, Tanya. So here's your studio. Tell us a little bit about it.
So I fall under the category of tiny, and it really is tiny. It's just under 8 feet by 8.5 feet. And it's crammed with everything that I need. And for me, I think the others can relate to this as well, is that if I need everything to be easily accessible and so that I can see it, because if it's out of sight, then it's out of mind. So I prefer open storage, so you can see behind me as well that, I all of my supplies are visible. And after all, the supplies are beautiful and they should be seen, and just being able to see my supplies and having them within easy reach is very, very inspiring to me. And again, I'd like to point out that, the four of us are, for us, this is a job, and you don't need to have this many supplies. And when I started out with a shoebox of supplies and one stamp. That's how I started. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with having just one box and a kitchen table. When I first moved to the UK, we lived in a small 1-bedroom apartment, and I had one half of the living room, and that was my space, and I was very, very happy with that. And this is what I've slowly built up over the years, and it just makes me really happy. And it's tiny. It never is disorganized for more than half a second. Let me tell you guys that. And I'm just really, really blessed that, you know, I have a room of my own. And however tiny it is mine. And I can do everything that I need to. And I've made some sacrifices on space, because for me, everything needs to be easy access. Like, for example, in the previous photo, you saw that my lights and my tripod are constantly up. And you can see them in both the left and the right. You can see my desk, and they're always constantly up. They take space, but I need them to be like that because I need to have things ready to go. I don't have time to pack them away and put them up. So I've made some sacrifices on space. And I would also mention, I don't do my admin work on my computer and my video editing in my room. I usually sit downstairs on our dining table and do that. And I make sure and try putting everything away after I'm done, so that, you know, I don't have like a second space, because that's just not fair. Because it's a shared space, and my husband, my better half, doesn't need to see my clutter there as well. So yeah, that's basically it. It's tiny, but it's mine, and I love it.
I think the part with the camera, that's on the lights, I think all of us have their lights and their camera equipment, you know, on. It's the only way we can do it, right? Like functionally.
There you are.
I know, it's like talking, reading, changing things. Pretty hard.
You're doing great.
Right.
You're doing great.
So we have one question in the Q&A already, but I have one question here from Julie Hook, who sent me an email, and she said, I have a very small space, a closet turned art space, and I have my art materials within reach, but I have so many painty papers and collage materials that it's overtaking my desk. Help. Any suggestions on how to make these papers organized yet used? Should I start with Tanya, because she said she has a tiny space too, and then we see what everyone else has to bring to the table for that?
Well, I do a lot of gel printing, so I would definitely relate to having more paper than I know what to do with. And over the years, I've become really ruthless about getting rid of what I don't need. So every once in a while, I will go through my papers, and I do a lot of art journals in a certain size, and I do a lot of cards of a certain size as well. So I will go through my papers, sort them by type, and then chop them down as needed, and be really, really ruthless. I'm like, do I really need this? And just it gets put in recycling, or I can set it aside that I'm going to collage this, or oh, I can fix this, or I can reuse this. And let me just move that there. This is all the paper I'm allowed. This is all the collage paper I am allowed to have. Seriously.
Cool. Yeah.
I can't. I don't have the space for it.
How about you, Rachel? You have a very, I know, because I saw your video a while ago where you did like a studio tour.
It's awesome.
It's very cool. Tell us, how is the paper addiction and collection going?
There he said, that was the word. So it's organized. I have a flat file where I keep my large art papers. so supplies to be used. And then I have another set of files for art that's complete that maybe needs to be packaged and shipped out or sold. And in terms of my collage, because I do a lot of, you guys can hear me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I do a lot of art journaling, and like Tanya, I do a lot of jelly printing, so I have a lot of papers. And similar to Tanya, I try to go through and I move my papers through the process. So if it, I really don't say anything is ugly, but I have some ugly papers. And if there's no hope for them, then I will just kind of get rid of them. And, but if I think that they're salvageable, which we all think all the paper is salvageable, I know, but I will move it through my process, meaning I'll find a piece that I like out of it and then just get rid of the rest. But I keep, I have these 2 big baskets that I keep close to me. So even when I'm collaging it, because I know how it is, if you were ever a scrapbooker, we have issues with even the tiniest little piece of paper. So I understand that. And so what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I'm gonna put it in this bin and it has to be used at some point. And so I create little bins, I'm not the best person to talk to about this. Because
so cute.
I really tried. I'm going, no.
She's like, I'm gonna explain it to you. I'm not the best person to.
In a perfect world, I would throw more away than I keep, but I don't. So I do keep my collage papers that are like my own papers that I like the ones that I sell and I print off. I keep them in folders so that way when I'm making videos, I know which set they're in. But reality is I really love all the papers. I'm looking right now while we're talking, I'm fidgeting and I'm cleaning my jelly plate, right? It's just if you're a jelly player, you understand that you just kind of pick at it. But you think I would throw them away? No. These are collage elements. So I'm really not the person to ask. I'm going to pass the mic to Rae.
Right.
Well,
so Rae, we know that you actually work in a lot of like super small, like, tiny things.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are collecting or sorting collage paper, do you only do like small things? Do you cut it up?
No, I actually don't store anything in a small format at all. So I have a couple ways I store them. So like you guys were saying, the pieces that are salvageable, I've learned to be like Tanya, and I'm just ruthless now. I pass it along to the grandkids to play with, or I recycle it, or I put it in Happy Meal, something, but it has to warrant staying to be kept. And I use a couple different systems. I don't keep anything smaller than 5x7 anymore. And I can make it smaller that way if I want it. And I keep those filed. I make little mini file folders and do them by colors or texture or whatever. And they stay in like a little small metal can or something that I have on my shelf. But the bigger stuff, I use an old rolling laundry basket as a hanging file folder system. And I keep like tablets of paper and the papers that are jelly printed and all of that in those. And I shove it under the table and I can wheel it out and use it when I want. But I've had to start doing the same thing because what both those girls said is so true. I mean, every scrap means something, it came from somewhere and we want it, but it could take over your whole world. I've been there. I mean, it's happened. So it just can't be like that anymore. So now, no matter if I want to keep it in smaller than 5x7, I have to use it right in that moment. I have to glue it into something or tuck it in a book or something. I just can't store it all anymore.
You're better than me. I'm pretty ruthless too. The reason is probably because I moved continents and I had to learn how to put everything in a shipping container. And boy, oh boy, did there a lot of things go away. And there were some art materials that I couldn't bring, like spray paints and alcohol inks. You're not allowed to ship those, and that was more hurtful for me. I never regretted getting rid of all my collage paper. And I think because for me, it's more like about the process when I make the papers than actually the outcome. I do not keep a lot of the things that I not do in my art journal or use right away like you. But I do have a little addiction because I do like a lot of history stuff, right, with my paintings. And when I get like a pile of old letters or old ledger papers or, anything that's almost falling apart when you touch it. So I have allowed myself one of those long drawers in my letterpress. And then every once in a while, I cannot close it anymore. Or when the paper like goes at the back of the drawer, and then everything stucks, like the top drawer, the drawer underneath. That's when there's like this clue you have to get rid, and then I go through and I purge, and that's cool too. So that was very cool. It was different and same in some ways at the same time. Robin asks, hey Robin, so good to have you. Robin wants to know from Rae, the cool piece behind you.
Oh, okay.
Is that functional? And if so, what do you use it for?
Yes, all the drawers are functional, and I use them for paper clips, glue sticks, all the little tidbits, metal parts, little alcohol inks, roller stamps, you name it, it's in there. But the best part is I can just pull the little drawer out and take it where I'm going and use from it and then stick it back in the thing. And fun fact, it looks like an antique, but it's a knot. So thank you.
It's very cool.
Actually, I have a question about that.
Yes,
Rae mentioned that she's short. So how do you access those drawers?
I have to stand on the chair behind me every single time. My Christmas wish list is a step stool. So that's what I hope to get this year, is a step stool. Because I have to drag the chair over. Every single time I have to stand on the chair, and it's got like one of the four legs that doesn't touch the ground. So I'm like, oh, it's a balancing act the whole time. It's going to end badly one day.
I saw some people mentioning like cleaning, and I know, Rae said she cleans up pretty much after she painted. I've not been long enough in my studio that I have only like 3 months before the pandemic, we moved in here, and then we didn't have any visitors. So, as Kim can attest from my other studio, there are times when you don't want to have visitors in the studio, but I'm trying. I'm pretty good in cleaning up my brush water and, changing that because I like my brushes. I'm not so good in keeping my surfaces clean. It takes over. How's that for, you guys? And do you have like cleaning tips? Like, what is like one thing, like for me, it's like, just change your brush water and don't, if you have good brushes, don't be so mean to your brushes. I think they're squeaking and saying, no, don't do this to me. Don't take pride in doing that, right? Or if you keep it for days, make sure that the water is not going over the ferrule, the metallic bit of your brush, so that the water doesn't seep into that and it starts just to, rust and fall off. So do you have like any favorite cleaning tips that you could think of? Rachel, how about you?
I do. So my biggest tip for me, and it may not work for you, is I have a Post-it note, because on my studio door, are your brushes in water? And the reason why is because I'll just leave and then I'll come back, and it may be 2-3 days. And at that point, the brushes are ruined. And so the most important thing I can do is make sure that my brushes, I've gotten the paint off. I've learned the hard way. And now as I started buying more precious brushes, they cost a lot of money. That's critical for me to make sure that I've cleaned my brushes. And then this is probably one of my favorite tips. So I wash my face at night with these clean cloths, I think they're called, or something. Anyway, it's just a cloth, right? These cloths, but I wash them out, I dry them, and they make the perfect brush cleaners. Like, I mean, I was gonna throw them away, so I store them in a little thing and I keep them closed. That way, I've already paid for them once.
That's a good tip. And I also think that's something that I often say to people in the classes: do not clean your brushes out in your skin. Like people put the brush into, I mean, your skin is like, that takes everything. So paint is chemicals, and you kind of like force, you know, the paint into your skin, which is really bad. So this is a great tip, Rachel. How about
my husband
you,
thinks I'm weird though, because I have this pile of, you know, these face cloths. And he's like, why do you keep them? I said, I'm saving you money. I'm saving you money.
And he's like, I like the sound of that.
Exactly.
Tanya, do you have a favorite tip for cleaning or you know, keeping things in order?
I hate cleaning, Nat. I honestly, I loathe it with a passion. But I have to clean because I do a lot of filming and video editing, and if you want your videos to look professional, you need to have a clean space. So I've had to force myself to develop this habit of cleaning every time I'm done with something, because I just want my videos to look nice and professional and clean. Like within frame, it will look like really, really tidy, but outside of it will be complete chaos.
Yes.
Will be complete chaos. And it's just something that I've gotten really good at doing over the years. And I have different surfaces for different things. Like for certain companies, I do really, really clean and simple stuff. So I have a mat for that, which covers up my paint stained desk. And for everything else, I have rolls of paper that I can just put out on my desk to cover up the paint stains. And to clean stuff up, I'm very conscious about using baby wipes. So you always have a microfiber cloth for cleaning up in my space. And I try not to use chemicals because they just affect my lungs really badly. So I have an eco-friendly cleaner that I use, and I'm not really particular about getting all the stains out. But if it's like something like alcohol inks, then I do have some alcohol wipes that I have to help clean away like really heavy stains. But cleaning doesn't come to me naturally, unfortunately. But I've just learned to have like a love-hate relationship with it. And it just needs to happen. It needs to happen. I don't like it, but I do it.
So how about you, Rae? I'm gonna put another question in here that I see again from Robin, which I think can you know, belongs to it. Robin says, how about cleaning stencils? I hate cleaning stencils, so I just don't. Do you clean stencils, Rae?
Oh, I'm bad about it. Oh, so bad about it. So I'm better about it if I'm using them with watercolor, which I do a lot now because I want them to have a clean, you know, finish when I start again. So I'll wipe those with a damp paper towel because I was using baby wipes, but they leave a soapy film on it. So they tended to like soap up the paint a little bit. So I'll have a damp paper towel, but when I use acrylic, I have to be honest, I'm bad about it. The most I'll do is wipe it off on a piece of paper, or, you know, if I happen to have a paper towel nearby, but I'm not getting up for one. I know that. So some of the holes in my stencils have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. So I'm really, like Rachel said earlier, I plead the fifth. I'm the worst person to ask about that. I shouldn't be. But I have my biggest problem in the studio, Nat mentioned in the beginning, was my surface space. I do have OCD, and the rest of my house will attest to that. But in here, I just feel so good about letting go. It doesn't bother me as much. But after a while, I'll start to twitch a little bit if my surfaces are covered, and that happens, you know, you in the heat of the moment, things happen. So I found an easy fix. You know, those little metal baskets you can get at like a Staples or something, you know, a stationery store that they put files in on a work desk. I just have a couple of those. And so for each project, I'll throw stuff in those and I can stack those up on top. I feel like if the piles themselves are wrangled, I'm okay with it. And then I can, you know, stack them up or move them out of the way. And then I have a mat that I put down if I'm using anything like sticky or wet or anything like that that I don't care about, and pull it up. But yeah, I'm really bad. Like I cleaned for days for those pictures.
It's so funny that you mentioned that you're OCD in the rest of the house. I'm actually super messy in my studio, but I'm not in the rest of the house.
Yeah,
I'm like very orderly and very minimalistic, actually. I think
me
so.
too.
But the one thing that helps me with my surface is I have a glass top. I bought a glass top for, it's a wooden workbench that you can see there in the background, but there is actually a glass plate on top of it. And I love it because it lets me roll out paint there, you know, or whatever happens. And then I just use a little scraper, like the one that you use for saran cooking, you know, fields. It's not a field, but you know what I mean. Yeah. And then I just can scrape the paint off and you know, I'm good to go. So I love that I can easily clean that surface.
Right.
And yes, it's tempered glass. So it's, it was from an old desk, so it's safe.
Nat, I was going to say, I would recommend to anyone, figure out how you work and then organize around that. Like that would probably be my major tip. Like my primary tool is a jelly plate. So everything technically is set up around that. Like the jelly plate is center stage, what I need to jelly, you know, to print. Stencils are handy. And then if you watch my process, you know, I make 40 pieces at a time. So I have these little, I can't reach them, but they're like a file folder and they have little slots and I can just put them so they can dry. And then I also I've discovered these, We Are Memory Keepers makes like cafeteria trays, if you will. It's a little rolly cart and has like 8 layers. And that has just helped because now I can just put my paint, my pieces that are in process on them. So that would be my tip. How you work is how you should organize. Don't try to organize like someone else if that's not how your workflow works. So
yeah, I think that's a super important point, actually, that you need to figure out how you work, and that might change all the time. That's why I change my studio all the time. Do you feel like your workflow has changed, like the things that you do most often, you know, from, let's say, now you're not jelly printing anymore, and then how did you change that? Let's think about this for a moment, but I want to go back first and have some people's question answered. So I'm going to throw this out for all of us. There was one that said, Rae, and I'm going to put that out for everyone. Do you label your U-bits or whatever you have? Qubits. I don't know. It's a U-bit. Like, I don't know. Is that a thing? I guess so. So I'm not making fun of the question. I'm just like, I don't know. Is that something I should know, a word that I need to learn? So if so, I love that
your
word.
Your cubbies. That's all. Like your little spots and stuff. That's all.
Cool. See, I learned something. Thank you, Cindy, for teaching that to me. So do you label it? I always want to label, but then I don't get around to it somehow. I wish I would be better. How about you guys?
I label the ones behind me because they're up high and I have to get on a chair to see them. So I don't want to spend a lot of time doing that. But most of the other storage things I have out, I can see what's in them. So I don't do that. And when I get on a kick, like you move furniture, I randomly, like if I'm feeling unmotivated or uncreative or uninspired, all I have to do is like reorganize my containers, you know. It might just mean moving one to a different one and something back to another, but it just is kind of that like cleaning the mental house to get back in the groove of things again. So things that I can't see, I do label, but things that I can see, I don't.
How about you guys? How about you, Tanya?
I used to label, but because my space is tiny, I pretty much know where everything is. I mean, I just take 2 steps and that's the end of my space. And I think what it's helped that I don't buy as many things as I used to. So I pretty much know where everything is.
Very cool.
So yeah.
So I am a yes, no. I'm gonna give you a yes, no. So I label, I have a tall armoire and I keep my rubber stamps in there. They're labeled just because I just want to pull out a drawer that says X's or tribal marks or something. And I just pull the whole drawer out as opposed to trying to figure out. If they were all together, I would never be able to use them. So that is probably the most organized and labeled thing in the studio are my rubber stamps. And then I have a wall of the IKEA cubes. And so anything that I can't tell, like all of the red baskets, they have a label on them just because it's not something I use all the time. And so when I do need something, I don't want to have to pull them all out to figure it out. So it's just convenient. But mostly I'm the one here by myself. And so I don't really necessarily need to label stuff because I kind of know where it is, kind of what everybody's saying, but except for my stamps. And they had to be organized because I just have so many and it would just take the whole day to find something if I didn't have them organized. So
that's pretty cool. Diane says, I keep a small enamel tray with water to throw my stencils in while I work. That's a really good tip. I do that actually with my foam stamps too. So that's a great way to make sure that they, keep them like from drying out and being ruined. I don't do that with my stencils. I don't clean my stencils. And then
I would like to share that, these are normally the state of my stencils, and this is very normal.
Right, you're breaking up
so
a little bit.
I have a happy accident that happens with my stencils. I don't clean my stencils either. I actually like not cleaning them because when the next time I use them, sometimes the color will come off. And that's actually like, oh, well, where did that come from? So I enjoy that. And then, but I will say, just be mindful of the stress because the stress will bleed. If you spray the stress on your stencils, just know it's going to come out 4 projects later.
Yep.
Just randomly will come out.
Yep.
So
yeah, I also think that's important to say that if you use like some, especially when the stencils are smaller in their openings, if you use like texture paste or gesso over it or heavy body paint, which goes off easier. But if you use like textured gels or whatever, you might want to clean it off just because it starts to make the opening smaller and smaller and smaller, and then you don't really be able to use the stencil anymore. That doesn't mean that I do that. I just say that you should clean that. I have another question which I would like to ask. How do you keep family members from visiting your studio to borrow items? Becky, thank you for bringing that up. That is actually a problem. My scissors are constantly being used for the package opening because I'm in the entry and I'm telling my husband, get your own scissors.
Well, I think I've ruined my my youngest daughter who's 6 because she's only known fancy art supplies. So I'm sure her teachers hate when she tells, oh no, I don't paint with those. I need real watercolors. So I tried to buy her own set and she's like, no, I want the little fancy tube like you got. I look at her like, no, that's $20. So I just have learned to embrace it and let her play with them. But I teach her well. And it's funny, I'm sorry, I tell a lot of stories, but I noticed that she actually listens to what I said. Cause I told her about, if you're going to paint watercolors, you got to make sure the colors that you keep your little tins clean, right? And so her friend was painting, her friend was mixing. She said, no, you have to keep the tin clean. I said, okay. She said, listen.
That's so cute. How about you, Rae? You often have your grandchildren over. Is there like, do they know not to touch nannies?
No, no, they think I'm Hobby Lobby. They all do. Their own kids do. Every single solitary school project. The parents don't do it. They call me. Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? I'm like, what the heck? I'm not Michael's. I mean, yes, but I love it. I joke about it, but I love it. And they do. And the way this table's built, there's 4 stools in places. So I can have them create alongside of me or at the same time of me without them being in my space, because their piles are way worse than mine. So it's nice that there's that separation, but I like that they come because, you know, when my kids were in school, you know, that was the joy of doing those projects. But now, you know, not having to run out every time you need something, you know, I don't always have everything they need, but I'm like, oh, I'm glad I saved those scrapbook stickers. You can have this or this, you know, that kind of thing.
So I know we're running a little bit over our time, but I want to have one more question because that's like often asked, and I know that is how do you store? So we did the paper, we good with the paper, and Rachel also already mentioned how she stores her rubber stamps, but how do you store your stencils? Like I store mine just in a drawer, they are, you know, I just go through them. I don't have a really organized way. I feel like the time it takes me to organize them in like clear, you know, foil, whatever, not foil, you know what I mean? The thing, the plastic sheets is for me, it's too much work to actually, it takes me more time than just going through my stencils. How are you storing your stencils? Tanya, you already picked it up. Oh no.
Well, my can you hear me?
There you are.
So I have my stencils sorted by size. These are my smaller ones. So I have them in this one box, and quite a lot of them I have separated into like folders and things, so that, you know, the intricate ones don't get too stuck together. My larger ones, which are mostly matte, stencils by Stencil Girl, are in a clear A3 size huge pocket. And those have my 12 by 12 stencils as well. I don't have that many large ones, so it's easy to just store them in the clear folder. And the smaller ones I have in here, and they're easy to access as well.
How about you, Rae? How do you store your stencils?
The ones I use all the time, like little, because I work small, all my littles, I just have clipped together and in a little bin right here. Like I said, everything I use all the time is right here. But the other ones I do use a binder, because like I said, I have no closet or anything, so it has to fit in this one drawer behind me. I use a binder, and I did have to do the tedious task of the page protectors you mentioned. That's what you have those grandkids for. And I just sorted like there's sections, you know, botanicals or art marks or things like that. And then that way I can just flip to a section and have them. And I do like that they're really nice for things like delicate masks and stuff like that. The bigger ones, I just have to put in like a legal folder and stick them in a drawer or something, but I don't have a lot of really big ones. So that's okay.
That's cool. But how about you, Rachel?
So I'm a dreamer. I believe I have a plan. I have this little rack, and I have them already, you know, with the little hooks on them, right? Yeah. And then what happens is what happens is they end up in this I mean, who can be bothered, right? So it was cute when I was setting up. I had them nicely organized. And then what happens is I'm a mad scientist when I'm working. I mean, I'm moving. So they just, yeah. And these are, as you would say, Rae, my most used. They're loved. They all have lots of paint.
Yep.
And I know, I mean, I can go through this pile quick and I just pick one. And maybe that's part of my process too. There's not a lot of thought when I'm picking out stencils because I know this pile, they all work together. And so it's just like, oh, let's use this one. And I put it down. So I don't know. Again, I don't know if you picked the right person for organization.
No, I did. I love this, Rachel. When I work, my stencils are everywhere in the room, everywhere.
Well,
So this was a lot of fun.
What's that, Rae?
Sorry, Rae.
Even just having a binder, that it happens. You go through, you're making something and you pull out all the ones you think you might use, so now all 97 stencils are on the table.
Yes.
Back in the binder,
That's why I don't have a binder, because I'm like,
right.
I don't have grandchildren or children.
Exactly.
I'm like, who's gonna do it?
That's right. Yeah, they sit right there on the table till they come over and they think it's so cool to file them back in.
Unfortunately, we're at the end of our time, which I'm sad about it because I know we could have talked more. So I just have to have you guys back. That's for sure. So it was so wonderful to have you guys. Before I say bye, I just want to tell you about the next episode. Again, this one is recorded. You will see it. You can see the recording in 3 days. Give me a little time to put it all together. But the next episode will be, again, the last Friday of July. It's July 30th at noon. And my guests will be Birgit Kopsen, Amanda Trout, Didi Catron, and it will be about artistic inspiration, finding the magic. So we're talking about, as professional artists, we will share practical tips for finding and energizing your artistic mojo. We will also discuss how to encourage it when it gets sluggish, and so on. You can register at the link that is posted by Kim in the chat. And I want to say that it was so much fun to have you guys. I hope you come back. And if you want to have a spin-off of that, and maybe I invite those guys back and some other people, just send us some questions and we can make sure that we will answer those the next time. So thank you everyone for being here. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and thank you, my loves, for spending this hour with me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.